A key highlight of what happened at the Collation Center in Abuja so far, PDP agents led by Senator Dino Melayu walked out in protest after questioning the validity of results being declared by INEC, especially when they say results from a large number of polling units were not uploaded to the IREF portal. Now we have an interview with Senator Dino Melayu. Take a listen.
By vehemently making a presentation that makes it look as if we are all here to rubber stamp the fraud that has been cooked between INEC and APC. We are saying that we are not here to rubber stamp the electoral fraud that have been prepared by INEC and APC. We are Nigerians and we all know that there is nowhere on the server that results have been uploaded. He's now saying we should wait for the process to be completed before he will review, knowing fully well that once a declaration is done, there can't be any review but courts. So we are completely dissociating ourselves, and that's why we stage a walkout. All the political parties here stage a walkout to express the unfortunate politicization and commercialization of our electoral process.
How many of the parties are staging a walkout?
We are about 9-10 of us here, understand? And we are saying that INEC is compromised, APC have influenced INEC, and we can see results are being changed. We have records of where elections did not take place and results have been prepared. Yeah. We have records of where the beavers were not used and results have been pronounced. What is difficult in the INEC chairman showing the uploaded results so that we can compare and interrogate that made by the state returning officers. But they cannot upload results. They cannot show us uploaded results because they know that what they are going to upload will be at variance with what they are presenting to Nigerians. So the electoral process have been rigged. INEC have rigged the 2023 elections, and we are completely dissociating ourselves from it, and we know what to do next.
So what if the outcome?
Let's listen to him.
What if the outcome of this process favors your party? What do you have to say?
Let's listen to him. I know my name.
Listen.
Drop your mic. Drop your mic.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Introduce yourself.
It is very, very unfortunate.
Bring down your mic.
My name is Honorable Umar Farouk Ibrahim, the National Secretary of the Labour Party and also the agent of the Presidential Collation Center for the Labour Party. We have air our observation to the national chairman of INEC. He has refused to listen to us.
Who's that?
We made observation. He wants to us to receive and accept the doctored result that came from the collection center at various states. We do not agree with that, and we have empirical evidence that we have our agents have observed us and they have informed us reliably that the Vivas machine have not been used. Yeah. Where they are used, they are being compromised. And the results of the Vivas machine have not been uploaded to INEC portal. And we have observed on Saturday, around the hour of 2 p.m., the INEC portal has gone down. The server has gone down. INEC have reportedly claimed, and they have also acknowledged and pleaded with Nigerians that they are having a glitch in their server. And now that server will still monitor it. At that, the INEC chairman wants us to accept what they are presenting here, and so on. We do not accept.
Are you accusing INEC of collusion with a political party?
We are accusing INEC. We are accusing INEC for not listening to the cry of millions of Nigeria that what they have promised, the confidence that all the Nigerians that have come to vote for their respective candidate, their beloved candidate, they have believed in what INEC has said. As it has been said, they are going to use Vivas, and we believe in Vivas, and the Vivas have not been used. It has been compromised.
So what if this outcome favors your party? How would you go from there?
It's not the issue of the issue is that has the system been consistent, reliable, and truthfully being used?
Excuse me, please. All of us. Excuse me. Sorry, please. All of us that stage a walkout. All the political parties that stage a walkout. Our resolution is that the entire process be cancelled. That is our demand. Our demand is that the system is compromised. INEC is compromised, so the entire process be stalled and cancelled.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Some strong accusations there. We are now going to be joined by Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, joining us from the Abuja studio to join in this conversation this afternoon. Thank you for joining us, Professor. What has been your greatest shock and also the fears with the current election and how it's going with the ongoing collation, and also your response to these heavy accusations? We saw the PDP stage a walkout led by Dino Melaye, and they're also saying that they're calling for a full cancellation despite what the outcome might be. What is your thoughts on this, and how do you see them rectifying this going forward?
Well, thank you very much for bringing me on. What we are witnessing now is not really surprising. First, it is not untypical of the Nigerian electioneering process for us to have contestations like this. They can be very trenchant, very vociferous, given the fact that we're still evolving, you know, as a nation in terms of imbibing ideal democratic culture. That is one, and this is without prejudice to the points every section is making. And second, of course, we saw, you know, we were able to anticipate very clearly that the election was going to be keenly contested, you know, with the nature of the campaigns and, of course, with the nature of the aspirants themselves. You know, there were people with almost equal or near equal pedigrees, you know, people who went around crisscrossing the nation, you know, and of course representing, you know, some regions, so to say, even though they had networks, you know, across the country, you know, the network that crisscrossed sections of the country. So the predictions were right that it was going to be a close election. So if the election was going to be close, it's not going to be surprising if we are having this kind of tension, this kind of stemming hits in the polity. You know, but the gratifying thing is that we'll have a process, a democratic process, and the democratic process is always very rich in the sense of asking that, you know, the action and what will follow has to be processual. Protestations are naturally processual. There are legitimate ways in which concerns can be raised. It doesn't matter how deeply pained, you know, some aspirants might be or some of their supporters might be. There are laid down regulations. Sometimes you might find this frustrating. You might find this too painstaking and too irritating, you know. But the legal process is just a natural resort in the interest of peace and tranquility. The points they raised, like I said, you know, may be valid in circumstances, especially with respect to the introduction of technology represented in the use of beavers and the fact that INEC server was going to welcome the result in the first instance. But we have had the inability of INEC to upload the results, you know, as in real time, you know, as they were being counted and collated and announced, being uploaded into the server. This didn't happen on account of INEC failure. So first, an attempt to inject technology into the process to make it a little more, to make it freer, you know, and much more transparent and credible has been let down by unfortunate glitches identified by INEC hierarchy yesterday. That's unfortunate, but it seems that it's something that we'll have to really find a way around now, you know. But But how do we find a way around it? What are the options left, for aspirants or for their supporters for the agents who are rightly complaining? The option left, it's just to tell the legitimate process. We cannot resort to anarchy. We cannot resort to violence. We just have to respect the process. And the process in this circumstance is, of course, resorting to the courts, which of course has been a practice that we've embraced in the past. Sometimes we have also been critical of it because we would rather want a situation where we hold election and we have contestants or we have losers supposedly congratulating the winner, and we have winners also being magnanimous in victory. We'll have wanted this kind of situation to arise instead of a resort to court. But in this circumstance where people are complaining legitimately, they do not have any option other than seeking legal redress. Violence, resort to separate help is definitely not the option. The option is to respect the laws of the land and be concerned about, ideal, legitimate processes. We have had challenges, and it's been identified by local and international observers, by the media, by civil society members. Everyone, even ordinary voters, have identified these challenges. But there are also strengths. There are also good sides of the election. What do we do at this stage? Do we throw the baby out with the bathwater, considering how costly this kind of election can be in a huge nation like us, in a nation where economy is not strong enough, where resources are limited, and where about 300 billion was carved out to execute this election? Are we just going to throw everything out of the way because of one limitation? That's going to be a difficult option to take. Painful as it is, despite the imperfections, yes, that were identified, but we just have to find a way out of it. Very painful, no doubt, but of course the courts are also an agency. They are also institutions that can be trusted, institutions that can be relied upon, for the adjudication of misgivings that parties may have identified in the course of this election, as the case could be. Yeah. All right, Professor Adeniyi, prior to the elections, this was called the mother of all elections. The Electoral Act 2022, the BVAS was meant to be the game changer. This is what was sold to the public. Yeah. To have all this turn on its head, do you blame those political parties who were hoping, and also the electorate who were hoping to see electronic transmission of results? Because it was said that regardless of network failure, provided the BVAS machine, provided some of these results have been uploaded, as soon as there is network, it will go straight to the server. But right now, INEC seems to have jettisoned all that, and they are doing collations manually. How do you reconcile these two together? Yeah, it's a very difficult situation, really, and I agree with you absolutely. Very difficult to reconcile, very unfortunate, painful, especially in a situation where we imagine that we're advancing in the development of our democracy, in the strengthening of our electoral mechanism, which is an important function, an important element in the determination of how credible a democracy can be. And remember also that we're still not where we ought to be in the measurement of democracy, even in Africa. I see arguments around our position. We still have 5 other countries in Africa that are still far ahead of us. Kenya, Senegal, Mauritius, South Africa, and maybe one other country are still ahead of us. So we're still trying, and considering that we are one of the largest country in Africa, the continental African citizens are looking up to us in a way, to raise, to up our ante in the organization of a credible election. And that's why we've been concerned about injecting technology. And of course, we have been celebratory in the past about how technology has enhanced the credibility of our election with respect to off-season elections, the ones we held in Edo, in Ondo, in Osun. We've been celebratory, really. And there was no reason why we could expect that when it comes to the election, the general election happening in planetary Nigeria, that it will not.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you because the conversation is getting really interesting, but we have to go back to the National Collation Center in Abuja, where we are expecting more results to be declared from INEC.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
These are the results of the collation we did in Enugu State. The number of registered voters, 2,112,793. 2,112,793. Number of accredited voters, 482,990. 482,990. Votes received by political parties. A, 165. 165. AA, 77. 77. AAC, 128. 128. ADC, 282. 282. ADP, 200. 200. APC, 4772. 4772. APGA, 1548. 1548. APN, 351. 351. APP, 209. 209. BP, 504. 504. LP, 428 640. 428 640. NNPP, 1808. 1808. NRM, 414. 414. BDP, 15749. 15749. PRP, 95. 95. SDP, 103. 103. YPP, 290. 290. ZLP, 1089. 1089. Total valid votes, 456 424. 456 424. Rejected votes, 12467. 12467. Total votes cast 468,891. 468,891. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any places where elections did not hold or cancellations?
Yes, Chairman, we had overvoting and disruption in Aninri, Uduma 2, and Ezago. We also had disruption in Imbo in Ogu. Those are the three areas that were affected.
Okay, total number of registered voters and PVCs collected. Are they all in the 40G?
Yes, they are. We have compiled them.
Okay, any comments, any observation on the Abia result? Sorry, Enugu result. Okay, thank you very much. Please step forward to present your result.
Well, more results have been declared at the National Collation Center in Abuja. In southeast Nigeria, Enugu State precisely, Labour Party recorded a landslide win with 428,640 votes, while the PDP came a very distant second with 15,749 votes. Earlier, we brought you results from Ogun State, where the APC won the election with 341,554 votes, and they also won in Oyo State, with the APC recording an overwhelming success of 449,884 votes. We have also gotten results from Yobe State, where the PDP recorded huge success after getting 198,567 votes, while the APC came second with 151,459 votes. And of course, we've told you about the drama that played out at the Collation Center, where PDP agents led by Senator Dino Melaye walked out in protest after questioning the validity of the results being declared by INEC.
Before presenting the result, so we give Lagos a few minutes.
Well, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is still with us. He's joining us from the Abuja studios. Professor Adeniyi, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, we've been talking about the drama that played out at the National Collation Center with party agents questioning the validity of the results. But one interesting thing is that so far, the APC has been acting as the voice of reason. Concerning the results of the election in Lagos State, Bola Tinubu called for calm, saying that as a Democrat, he's bound to accept the outcome of the just concluded election. So I'd like to know your thoughts on this, Professor. Is this a Goodluck Jonathan legacy at work? Is it the peace accord at work? Or is it that democracy is actually growing and becoming further entrenched in Nigeria? Or is this a form of political manipulation? What do you make of this statement from the APC concerning the outcome of the election in Lagos State?
Well, I think it's one of many things. Election is supposed to spring some surprises. Sometimes, if there are no surprises, then of course you can question the character of or the soul of any electioneering process. It's supposed to be a contest, and in contest, of course, you expect that some shocks will rear its head, and that's what we're seeing, particularly in the case of Lagos. And I'm not also surprised that he came out, directly or indirectly to say, to call for calm. It's probably the right thing to do, because if he's losing one, there are pointers, reasonable pointers that is costing him to victory at the center, going by the results that we have so far had. So it's just a kind of minus and plus here. If I'm not going to get these, I'm probably going to get the other. And of course, even in the loss in Lagos, there might be argument around the fact that the gap is not much. And of course, I can find consolation in other places. So many things might be working in the minds of these leaders. And if you look at it overall, every contestant has suffered one bruise or the other, whether APC, PDP, or LP. They have all suffered their own individual disappointment. That tells us that takes us back to what I said earlier, and something that we actually anticipated earlier on, that it was going to be a keenly contested election. And when the results start coming out, there will be so much anxiety, and until the final result is declared formally, we may not really be able to say who is going to win. Remember, there are conditionalities. You have to have 25%, of all the votes cast across the 36 states of the federation, including Abuja, in addition to scoring the majority vote. So the complications are still there, the conditionalities are still there, and all these conditions have to be met before you can actually say you have actually won. But it can also be gratifying when you are looking good, with the figures, so far read out, as the case could be. And of course, we're also seeing what is happening at the National Coalition Center, with some agents, exercising their legitimate right to complain, and even exercising the freedom to stage a walkout. This is not also unexpected, even though we will have ordinarily wanted a situation where the result will be acceptable to all. It's a difficult thing, a difficult time for them. Losing an election can be very painful. Ordinarily in life, nobody wants to lose anything, but it's a fact of life that we cannot all be winners. There will always be winners and losers. And what matters is how we manage the circumstance that we find ourselves. How are these agents, these politicians, going to manage this one? How is it going to be different from the previous one? And that's what we're talking about. Growing our democratic culture. Growing it is not just about longevity, that we are having 23 or 24 years of unbroken democracy, but the character also have to be implicated in our bid to grow it. And what is this character? To be magnanimous in victory and to be gallant in defeat. Are we there yet? I'm not sure. And remember what I said earlier, that it's fine, that we are having complaints, we are having protestations, but protestations is processual in a democracy, in a state, where there are laws, and of course, it's natural, noble, much more noble than resort to violence. The agents have gone out, they have made their demand. I heard Senator Dino saying clearly that what they would do, what they are asking for is a total cancellation of the result. It looks a tall request, but of course the courts are there, for them to resort to. And I see them exploring that option. But for now, ordinarily as observers, we just be wondering, at the cost of cancellation, considering the sympathy we naturally should have for our nation, with limited resources, and considering the humongous amount, in terms of not just the cost, but the logistics, the movement of men and materials involved in conducting an election in a huge nation like ours. And what about the psychological drain it often constitutes on the citizens in terms of distraction, in terms of distraction in all sectors of the economy? Universities are presently shut down now. Students are losing lectures and lessons and knowledge. And of course, the economy is also suffering because so many things are waiting for the peaceful conduct of the elections before they take off. All these things will have to come into consideration. But mercifully, we cannot downplay the place of process, which happens in stages. And I see them exploring it, and we will not be blaming them if they decide to go to court. The courts are there. That's why they are there. And it's another institution that has to be strengthened as well. Overall, we're just concerned about strengthening the institutions. And of course, the failure of our institutions, or the weakness of our institution rather, is actually what has partly led to the inadequacy of INEC, to come out with an election that will say is speak and span, maybe some lethargy somewhere, maybe some inefficiency, the absence of productivity and effectivity in some places is probably what has led to the malfunctioning of the beavers after over 4 years of preparation, after all the appropriation, and after all the pronouncements, from the INEC High Command that they are ready for the election. And we are seeing this happening. But I've had international observers, making an important, instructive summation this afternoon that election is a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. And that democracy is a journey, not necessarily a destination. We are probably headed somewhere. We're unfortunately not there yet. But all we have to do in this circumstance is to renew our hope, invest our hope that at some point we will get it. And of course, there shouldn't be any bringing out of swords in the circumstance, since there are options for us to explore. And as long as those options are legitimate, they are in the books, it's just there for us to take those opportunities and follow them as the case could be.
Well said, Professor Adeniyi. Speaking of sportsmanlike conduct, and in this practice of this democracy that is very young for us, and allowing things to run their course, it seems like, especially from this walkout, there's already quite palpable tension. And we know that there have, the elections experienced delays. There were off-site elections that had to be held due to various reasons. And so the results are still trickling in. Understandably, those results won't all come in today. They would hopefully finish landing in the next couple of days. But I want to speak to that sportsmanlike conduct. And also, I think it was J.K. Pele who was telling everyone to be magnanimous, as you said, and be peaceful in the way that they carry out the next few days. But I mean, as human beings, with the kind of stress that Nigerians have been under, even before the election started, let's even take it to the petrol scarcity and the naira scarcity. Everyone's been hot under the collar for weeks now. And it seems that the Electoral Board is asking for levels of patience that if you look at, if you want to look at it from afar, it could be seen as asking for a little bit much, given the situation in the country. Do you think that these are, this is a thought that that's behind in the minds of those that are sitting at the collation tables? I know they look really tired and frustrated themselves, but is this in the back of their minds that they need to hurry this up or try and speed up the process as much as possible before the country starts to get antsy and starts to display this unsportsmanlike conduct, especially if they're getting amped and pumped up by other parties who seem to be very strong in the grievances they have? I mean, calling for the cancellations of an entire elections that cost over 400 million naira is quite severe.
Yeah, I think your observations are in order, but first, sometimes in the course of nation building, individuals, citizens, and of course state actors, leaders are sometimes required to make sacrifices. Those sacrifices may actually be very, very painful, some of them very irritating. But what do you do? You just see that, you do not have any option at some point other than to make that sacrifice. And if it is one of patience, if it ones that borders on attitude, you just have to stretch yourself a little further, because attitude can be contextual. They're largely psychological, and of course you can imagine that what may stretch me may not stretch you, and what may stretch you may not stretch me. So these things can actually be relative. In this circumstance, we'll need our leaders in different regards to rein in and maybe talk to their supporters,
Professor
their
Adeniyi.
followers to privilege peace.
We are hearing really weighty accusations. First of all, it was Dino Melaye. Now it's Akin Osuntokun of the Labour Party. He says President Buhari and INEC, they've failed in their promise to provide free and fair election. He talked about some criminal collusion between INEC and security forces to compromise the election. He says they've lost confidence in INEC and is calling for the cancellation of the entire process. What's your reaction to what's going on?
Yeah, first one is one of pain and regret, that we are back to this point where we thought we have left about 10 years ago, that after so many years of learning, of falling and rising, falling and standing up, we are still struggling to deliver a credible, free, fair election that will be largely satisfactory to a range of participants. Now we're having two major political parties kicking at the election, saying that it is discreditable, very unfortunate, And of course, I like the last sentence, the last paragraph that he read out, that Nigerians should remain peaceful, supporters should remain calm, they will seek legitimate means, to seek redress. That's the route to go, and I expect, and I'm confident too that PDP will also to that route. I've made this point severally, there are processes and procedures in a state that is supposedly running. And of course, that's why we have a trinity of the executive, the legislature, and of course, and the judiciary. In an ideal democracy, we'll have that in place as well. And we have an executive arm now carrying out an exercise through the instrumentality of INEC, and there are questions to be asked. The option for us now, for those protesting, is to resort to the judiciary. And I'm sure the judiciary, they are not also from the sky, they are right within us, and they are watching and probably waiting until the aggrieved parties come to them.
Well,
so
Professor
having said that
Adeniyi,
again is for us also to,
Professor Adeniyi, I know it's been a lot of stop and go this entire interview, but we're always glad to have you on the show and to comment on these very important issues. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.